recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of the committee, for the work that your 1,600 plus full-time equivalents do on areas like thwarting robocalls and your efforts to promote the right to repair, I want to thank the people at the FTC. Our beef, though, is not with much of the good work you do, much of which, as you said to Mr. Kiley, is successful in when you litigate. Our problem here today, my problem here today, is that you're a bully. You have $500 million to spend, and you choose to spend it promoting a policy that when you were a staffer sitting behind us, you seem to be very much into it. I believe you've taken the idea that companies should have to be less competitive in order to merge, that every merger has to be somehow bad for the company and good for the consumer, a standard that cannot be met. I will take, for example, Illumina, a situation in which they have had the audacity to tell you that a company that they spun off but still held major assets in, that asked to be reacquired so that a breakthrough non-competitive drug, a technology of detection of cancer could be promoted more quickly, one which has no current competitor, one which is not on the market. And yet you decided that a company with a market cap of about 10%, that of Pfizer, somehow would be anti-competitive if it assimilated a new, took on something that would be new, that it had helped internally produce before spinning it off. You're failing in that, you're going to fail. You then took on Microsoft. Microsoft's a big company. Everybody up here seems to want to beat on anyone that has over $1 trillion market cap. And when you served on the committee, you were big on, if you were over $1 trillion, we need to break you up or stop you. However, that merger that you lost the other day is one in which a protected market that Sony enjoys in Japan, a company that is already larger, needs competition. The reality is we are a global market, and you are thinking only of who you want to go after for some reason. And I cannot find your logic, and I believe that it begins at the top. When you blamed your staff and said staff decisions, shame on you. The fact is you run this organization, and its left turn came when you took over, not with the staff that many of whom would have already been there. Now, one of the things that beyond Illumina that gets me is, and this is my question to you, if cancer patients die because you had blocked the merger, which you didn't because they went forward over your objections and will continue to fight you, if cancer patients die because they don't have the money to bring this technology forward, where is the consumer benefited? And I know that you're going to say, Illumina is currently pending, we're still working on it, I can't answer. It's interesting, you can answer yes or no to the Democrats, but you can never answer simply to us. But I'll give you a chance. If something is not on the market and an organization of two companies say we want to merge to bring something to the market, where does the FTC see anti-competitiveness? Briefly, if you can answer.
So before I answer, I should just note, if anybody asks me on either side about an ongoing
No, please answer my question. My time is limited.
I will not be able to answer about ongoing adjudicative proceedings. Relating to the matter that you mentioned, I was not at the commission when it was voted out. There was a recent commission opinion. In that opinion, we lay out our view, that was voted out unanimously, we laid out our view about how the antitrust laws apply in nascent markets. There is significant case law around how it's incredibly important to be protecting competition, not just in well-established markets, but especially in nascent markets.
So let's go back through this. Your opinion, the opinion whether you inherited it or not that you seem to bear, is that in the future there could be a failure to have competition in a market that has not yet occurred. If people have to meet a standard of your hypothetical market will not develop because we have to predict the future. If your ability to predict the future is so good, how is it you could not predict that you were going to lose 4 out of 4 cases? How is it you can predict the future of markets when, in fact, the stock market can't even do it? I would contend that you have overstepped your boundaries and your $500 million budget is being wasted. And I, for one, will not support your $160 million increase as long as you do not stick to those things which you do well, which the FTC has a responsibility, and for those robocalls that, in fact, you have never managed to stop. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to commend my colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the 118th Congress in diversifying the membership on their side of the aisle, but frankly, we haven't done enough. They have not done enough. They can't do enough at this point, and it reflects in the treatment that a witness such as yourself, Chair Khan, receives from this committee. When a witness comes in, sitting solo at that table in front of all of these interrogators, it's a daunting look. The American people can see it, and when we treat a witness who looks like you with the politics of personal destruction, and when we only attack witnesses who look like you with allegations of incompetence and a lack of ability to lead their agency, it's indicative of the need for this committee to reflect what the American people look like. And I want to appreciate you today for withstanding what you have had to endure thus far, and we've only begun. But I will say this, Chair Khan, Americans rely on regulations to protect consumers and workers in this country, and the Federal Trade Commission should be as aggressive in its enforcement as the circumstances dictate. Today in America, there are only 4 large corporate conglomerates that control the market for beef, pork, and poultry. Consolidation in the meatpacking industry shows up at the grocery store, resulting in inflation for consumers and, at the same time, coincidentally, record high profits for the corporate conglomerates who are soaking those profits from the American people. A single company controls most of the web searching, and a single company controls nearly half of all e-commerce. That's too much power in the hands of too few corporations. And they can hike prices with little recourse. They control vast amounts of personal data, and consumers are being squeezed by consolidation in almost every aspect of the marketplace, from food production to hospitals. So I'm glad to see that you are using your position to strongly enforce antitrust laws to ensure fair competition and prices. Moreover, we're lucky to have an FTC chair who does not have personal or monetary conflicts of interest that would require her to recuse herself from cases involving big tech companies. That is a good thing. Because of that, Chair Khan is able to lead an agency that is properly investigating companies like Amazon, Meta, Facebook, and Twitter. And I'm glad that we do not have the fox guarding the hen house, that we instead have an FTC that is actively working to protect American consumers. Now, I want to ask you, Chair Khan, pharmacy benefit managers manage prescription drug benefits on behalf of large insurers, large employers, and other payers. However, this middleman role allows PBMs to artificially inflate the prices of drugs that individuals must pay for critical medications, resulting in consumers having to pay almost 20% more for generic drugs. And the market for PBMs is an area of the market that is highly consolidated, with just 3 PBMs controlling 79% of the market. What can the Commission do to ensure the market for pharmacy benefit managers is competitive and fair so that Americans can afford their prescription drugs?
This is an area where we're looking very closely. We issued a policy statement last year unanimously, noting some of our concerns in the pharmacy benefit management space. In addition to the consolidation that you mentioned, we've also seen vertical integration. So these PBMs have also now expanded into insurance. Sometimes they're competing with the very pharmacies that are dependent on them. We've heard that that can create conflicts of interest. We've also heard that these PBMs demand rebates in ways that may be denying patients access to more affordable drugs. So we've put the market on notice that we are looking at these practices closely. If we find law violations, we won't hesitate to act.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
I have a unanimous consent request.
Do the point of order, then I'll come to your unanimous consent.
Chairman, I waited for the gentleman to complete his time, but I must raise a point of order that I personally felt that he was referring to all Republicans, but particularly to me, for his comments about diversity and his comments about our treating the witness apparently because of the color of her skin, which happens to be similar to my brown skin. And I would ask that that portion of his testimony be taken down as inappropriate and argumentative and making a racial slur against myself and other members of the Congress, who, by the way, yesterday treated what I would call a very white man of a greater age.
Is this a
very
point of order,
similarly.
Mr. Chairman, or is this a speech?
I don't think the gentleman's point of order has been stated in a timely fashion. It's supposed to happen right after the statement.
Then I withdraw my point of order, but not my objection.
Well, I would just point out we should all engage in proper decorum, not disparage colleagues, not disparage people in the government, not disparage anyone. So let's just keep that in mind. And with that, I know we got a unanimous consent request.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move for the entry of a letter from Small Business Rising to yourself as well as to the ranking member, Gerald Nadler, into the record without objection.
Without objection.
And I'd also like to take, if the chair will allow me to, the opportunity to simply clarify to my friend
Briefly.
Chair Issa that no personal affront was intended. This was directed at the entire panel.
We got that. The chairman recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.